Hello, everyone. Dr. Sharon here with you today, and we are live talking about National Cuddle Up Day. Whoever came up with that, I want to shake their hand right now because it sparked my attention to talk about something that I see every single day in my line of work. Physical touch that is missing amongst couples. And so physical touch is powerful, it's awesome. It's a gift that was given to each one of us by God, but yet it's something that nobody wants to do or nobody wants to talk about, especially among those of us who are in church or grew up in church or have the whole church thing going on in our minds. But physical touch is important to God. And when we avoid touching or the very idea of it, we can become emotionally detached in our marriages. And I see that every day. I get to see it every day. Today we get to have a chat. We're going to chat. It's not a formal thing. Just let your hair down if you have hair. And we're going to chat about this very important subject called touching or cuddling or whatever you want to call it. And so I am here today. And from a biblical point of view, I get to be a pastor as well. So from a biblical point of view, touch was so important to Jesus that just about every single time that somebody was healed, they were healed by the touch of his hands. And when he was about with his disciples and he wanted to touch them, he literally put a towel around his waist and went to washing their feet. When was the last time you washed your spouse's feet? Just to get the idea of what touching is about. And that's all biblical. You can find it throughout the New Testament where Jesus is just going and touching because the idea of touching, the ability to touch was so very important and still is very important to him. When I went to search out in my repertoire to find a couple or two or even three that would talk about the idea of touching, it was very difficult. Everybody had an excuse, and some people were literally honest. We just don't talk about that. We just don't talk about that. And so here we are today talking about it and hoping that you are listening so that it will improve your marriage going forward. So today, I was able to find one courageous couple that will come on here and talk about this amazing subject that we sometimes literally dismiss from our marriages. And so we find it so much easier to do it, and when I talk about touching, everybody thinks I'm talking about sex. And that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the idea of touching and what touching literally does. And if you read my post today on Facebook, I was talking about some of the things that touching actually does, like to boost your immune system. How about that? It just allows your blood pressure to regulate better. When was the last time you cuddled up with your spouse? It does so many things. It improves mental health and so many other things. I could go on and on and on about touching, but I did want to introduce you to this amazing couple. Their bio talks strategically about them and who they are. And so that I don't mess it all up, I want to literally read their bio to you. And so it says here in their bio that this couple, Tristan and Melanie, they were raised in diverse backgrounds. And I'm just going to bring them on right now and add them to my stage. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hey.
Hello, hello. We are well. How are you?
I am good. Thank you. Thank you for your courage.
Oh, thank you for letting us be on here, Doctor.
You're welcome. You're welcome. This is what I like to do. I don't like live, but this is what I like to do every single day. And so let me just read what I want to tell about this couple, Tristan and Melanie. They were raised in diverse backgrounds and had many adversities and hardships. They were linked in friendship, and the adversities helped bond them in love. Tristan has worked in the mental health field, helping individuals for almost 20 years. You look like 20, but hey, almost 20 years, and has a deep-rooted passion for helping people find the value inside of them. Coming from varying atmospheres, Tristan developed a strong desire for stability and self-awareness. As an author and speaker, he has worked with many people, aiding them in finding their pathway by helping them to understand their past and helping them strengthen their perspective and mental power. Melanie has worked in wellness for over 10 years and feels it is her calling. By working through past traumas, she has a passion to guide others in breakthroughs to do the same. Together, they formed their business, Helm Mastery. They work with individuals to create a healthier, more balanced quality of life. Welcome, Tristan and Melanie.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chen. We appreciate it. That was a very nice introduction.
And you know, I'm hoping people will join us on here. I saw that people wanted to join us, and I'm hoping that they do, because this is such an important subject. And whether they join us now or later, we're just going to talk about it. We're just going to keep it real. We're just going to make it happen. I was honored to meet Tristan some weeks ago, or it seems like weeks, but it's probably a month or so, through Dr. Tina Lewis. And we immediately clicked because of what we do. You know, we work with the mind. And so today I get to plug into their brains and plug into their lives and get intimate with them about this subject that a lot of us, especially in Christianity, refuse to talk about. And therefore, my office is packed with couples that are not touching, not engaging, not doing anything, and literally falling apart. So today, the hope is that we will help some couples not to do that anymore, whether they want to come to you for help or me, because we're not in competition. No, we're doing this as a team. And so, hey, Melanie, nice to meet you.
It's so nice to meet you finally.
And so I have some questions, and just keep it real, honest. You know, let's sit back. I look like this because I like to.
Oh yeah, no, we are laid back. Yep, and we like to get into the nitty gritty that nobody likes to talk about.
That's what I need. And so, first of all, how long have you guys been married?
Oh my, we're going on 7 years, but we like to extend that to like 20 years, just because we came from pretty interesting relationships, and so we like to think we brought that experience and the not what to do and knowing what to do to the relationship. So it kind of like it gave us a heads up on what to look for, and we kind of bypassed a lot of the, I guess, honeymoon phase. Once that fades, like we were able to bypass a lot of early relationship struggles that people have because we brought that experience with us. So 7 years to answer the question.
All right, 7 years.
As of March.
Did you have something to add, wifey?
I do. Yeah. So it was very, I guess, because of the posture that we had coming into our marriage. We also we came in with 2 children from previous marriages, and so there was. We just had to be very, very careful and very calculated about how we came into this relationship. We didn't just go in head first, that you hear a lot of people do. It was a very, I don't know,
intentional,
yeah. Just very calculated. And we both we love, we're just big nerds, and psychology is definitely a hobby of ours. Other people, do other things, and they play golf and whatnot, and we learn about the body and mind. But anyways, yeah, it was. I think we've had our own challenges.
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. But some of those newer ones we were definitely able to bypass.
Okay, so I have, a multitude of questions to ask you, but that was one that, we have couples out there that have been married for however long they've been married and still trying to figure it all out. But today we want to help them figure it out. So
absolutely.
My next question would be, since we're talking about touching, how does using the power of touch help you to affirm each other?
Oh my. You gonna go first?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so this is such a loaded question, so I'll try to keep it in. My background is I'm going on 13 years of doing massage and body work, and so the power of touch is pretty much what I do every day, right? And that's just on a very general platonic level. And so translating that into a marriage and adding in the emotions that are involved, I feel like depending on what's going on each day, just touch, being able to connect with your spouse, whether you're upset with them, whether you've had a hard day, whether you're touched out from being around the kids all day, or you've had a hard day at work or something like that. Just being able to just come in and just put my head on his shoulder and just intentionally making that connection. He knows that whenever I'm really overwhelmed, because I'm like, I get really overwhelmed and sensory, just kind of overloaded. And so he knows to just wrap his arms around me and hold me for at least 8 to 10 seconds. And he's going to go into what that does in the brain. But yeah, just that compression and just that holding. I came from a very traumatic background. And so the first several years, probably the first 5 years of our marriage was doing damage control and getting rid of baggage and working through traumas. And so him just being able to provide safe touch whenever the world was just, all kinds of crazy, telling my brain to calm down, and he was my safe place. And so I feel like, depending on the situation, just being able to hold your spouse's hand or give them a hug or just it speaks so much louder than words. And it's so simple, it's just bypassed a lot. And it's usually like, oh, if they touch me, they want sex or something like that. And just we try to be very intentional about just making that connection, because we can't say anything. Touch says a lot.
Thank you for sharing that, Melanie, because it's so important that, the idea of touching is so important. And yes, we disregard it sometimes, and you get to do it every day and you get to see the results of doing that. Tristan, did you want to add anything?
Sure. I guess so. So for the first part of our relationship, we did an antiquated practice called courting. And we were very tactful about what we did and what we did not do. So we weren't real quick to hold hands all the time. We weren't real quick to hug, and we didn't kiss until the altar because we felt like physical touch was very. I'm trying to think of the best word to put it, but it's sacred. Yeah, it was like a sanctuary for us. So because we held it up in such high regard, it meant that when we were able to touch, it brought a lot more value. So in saying that, when we would, since we held off on our first kiss until the altar, I remember going to the honeymoon. We went on our honeymoon. I remember we went to go grocery shopping, and I got out of the vehicle and I went to open the car door for her, and I was like, I get to give her a kiss now. And it's something that gets overlooked every day by couples because we held it with such sacred honor. It felt like an honor and a privilege. So I guess some of the touch contributions it's made, it's kept me grounded in where I hold our relationship, just personally, because I cannot remember a time when I didn't want to be married. Like as a very, very young man, I knew whatever I did professionally, how many kids I had, if I had kids, one thing I knew is I wanted to be married. And I've always had this ideal in my mind of the type of marriage I wanted with like a realistic standpoint. It was like, oh, she's perfect. She will always serve me. It was like, I'm going to do everything I can to help her, and she's going to help me, and we're going to be a great couple. And like long ago when I was a kid, when most kids were thinking about G.I. Joe, I was thinking, what do I want? How do you get married? Do you just randomly walk up to somebody? But anyways, with that said, anytime I feel like there's a disconnect or there's something not right, I always feel like, hey, I want to hold her hand. And I remember one time specifically, we were going to this event together, this big conference. And it's like, as we're walking in, I was like, man, it's been a while since we've just held hands and walked. So I reached back and I grabbed her hand. I held my hand out and she touched my hand. And I felt like the chill in my body. Like I felt this chemical change in me. It was like, ooh, I miss that. That's my baby, So it just made a very important impact in our life because it metaphorically and literally it keeps us connected in our emotional state, our physical state, and our spiritual state.
Just to pause for a minute, are you able to see any comments? Because I can't see anything out there.
No, I've made a full screen so we could give our focus. I'm not seeing any. No, ma'am, not yet.
Okay. So those are important things, because what it does is, what it sounds like it does or did or is doing is actually building a bond, right? Mm-hmm. Making it even more connected than ever before. And there is so much that goes into that whole touching thing. And, you talked a lot about it, both of you, but it's also culturally, some people just don't, it's been instilled in a lot of us. I'm from Jamaica. Others are out there from all different places. And sometimes, especially when we get into the whole church arena, we actually totally dismiss that subject. And as a Christian therapist, I get to see all these couples. They love God, they believe in God, but when we talk about this actual subject, I can literally feel the vibration of the room literally change. So the hope is that going forward, we can help some people not to feel so strange about something that was made to be so natural among us. And so my fourth question is, have there been times when touch was lacking in your marriage? And if so, what was the effect on your marriage?
Okay, so I'll take this one first. So it's usually me. And I say that because I have had to work through, like I had shared, I just came from, I just had a lot of junk whenever I was a child and growing up as a young adult. And so whenever I was finally able to overcome that by deliverance and by the power of God and all these wonderful things and him rebuilding my life, I was, established in my career and the work that I do and as a mom. And so that became my worth and that became my value. So I became a workaholic. And I still have to keep that in check because I really do love what I do, right? It is part of me. It runs through me, all of that. But whenever it's out of balance, then I'm all in my head. I'm just running with blinders on. And that'll be all I talk about. That'll be all that I think about, just think about and worry about. And, he's sitting over here like, well, what about me? I'll be so just lost in whatever I'm doing that I won't be thinking about him. I won't be intentional. And it's very, to pull your mind into a different direction can be like physically challenging sometimes. Like you can feel it, like you have to just move it on over. And that's what I have to catch myself from doing, is getting into that like workaholic state, I guess. But I've done that quite often. And when I do that, I get disconnected. I don't communicate with him as much. When we do, it's just text message. And then by the time that we both get home, I'm completely fried from the day. I've given all that I have to, my work and my clientele and then my children or, whatever we're doing, or to the works of the church, because I'm not, taking care of my first ministry that the Lord gave me. And I've not reserved my best for God and my husband. And we get disconnected. And, he's usually the one, he's like, I miss my wife. Where is my wife? Like, you're doing it again. and we've given each other permission to let us know, like, hey, you need to reel it back in because you're getting out there again. And I miss my spouse. He's like, I don't want a roommate. I want a wife. I chose you. And yes. I want to live my life with you each and every day. And so like, I always tell everybody, like, he's more emotionally intelligent, even though I'm the woman, like he's more emotionally fit and intelligent than I am. I've learned so much from him just to be able to connect with myself and to be able to connect in intimacy.
Make me cry over here. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I didn't know she felt that way.
Yeah. And like, that's the big thing, because I love, there's a gentleman, Kevin Lehman, and he writes some great books on Christian marriage and intimacy and things like that. And one of them that he writes is actually like sex begins in the kitchen. And he's just saying that our intimacy with one another begins in every aspect of life. How are we connecting with each other, and how are we, just making sure that we're intentional. And so I'll get, just to bring it back, I will. I'm usually the one that gets off the rafters first, and we have to work pretty diligently to make sure that we don't, because there's a lot of damage. It's a lot of collateral damage. There's chaos in the house whenever we're like that. The children feel it. They'll even pull us, because our kids are awesome. We have 5 children, 4 teenagers, and one of our kids will be like, are y'all okay? Do y'all need a date? Like, we can watch our youngest is 5. Y'all need to do something.
And they get it. They get it, right?
Yeah, they absolutely do. Yeah. And if I can just add to that a little bit. So you said a very powerful word, culture. And that plays a huge impact. And you know this, probably more than me, I would say. I almost guarantee it. But culture plays so much of a role and an influence in just how we think, that sometimes we let that direct our state of mind rather than say, wait a minute, maybe that's not good that my culture says this. I wasn't raised around affection. I'll be frank and honest about that. I wasn't raised around stability. I wasn't raised around lovey-doveyness. I just wasn't. And as I was growing up, I began creating a mindset of, I don't want this when I grow up. I want affection. I want love. I want compassion. I want stability. I want resolve and communication. I don't want to be throwing, teapots at each other like my parents might have done. I don't want that. I want a communication where, yes, we're angry and that's okay, but let's talk about it. Let's figure this out together. And because of the science, the actual biological science that occurs when human touch happens, there are pheromones and chemicals released in our body that alleviate stress and alleviate that stuff. So, segueing into what I wanted to contribute is, I can usually tell, like, hey, something's not right. Like, I'm stressed out. I haven't talked to my wife in a while. I miss my girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
And all that, I'm just, as a culmination of my point is, I'm really trying to be very vigilant that we don't drift off into roommates, and we don't drift off into, oh, that's my wife. Yeah, we live together. It's like, I was into her before we got together. I was into her while we were together. And I cannot allow myself to get into the rigmarole of life. And I forget, this is the woman that I chose to spend the rest of my life with. So it's important that when these children leave, that it's just us. And I'm not looking at her like, well, I don't even know what to do now. Like,
Like,
Who are you? Who are
Yeah.
you?
for 20
Like,
years, right? As we
hi,
raise the
I'm,
kids.
what was your name again?
Yeah.
I want that, like, all right, they're free. Let's go do the things that we've always wanted to do,
Yeah.
because we stayed connected through the process. And so it's just, I said this a while back, and I try to keep it in my mindset, is you don't get so much into your marriage that you forget who you were dating at one time. We were boyfriend and girlfriend at one time. Now we're just husband and wife, but that relationship should always, always be strong.
Well, thank you all for sharing. And I'm going back to something that Melanie said about ministry, right? Because sometimes we get it twisted and we think ministry is God. And so we think that we're putting ministry ahead of our spouse, is that we're putting God. That's our, because God is first, but ministry is not. And so we have to get that pretty clear in our heads, especially those of us who have leadership roles and different things that we play. We can't, allow the church, so to speak, to pull us and tug us so that we start thinking the ministry is God. God is God, and there's a relationship with him that comes first. I always tell my husband, you're not my number one guy. God is my number one. And then, but right under that, there is you,
Yes.
and then after that, the ministry and everything else falls under that. And I think we get that, the staircase, so to speak, we get it kind of mixed up, because we get so many people tugging at us to do so many different things. I mean, I'm a Christian therapist, so sometimes that even gets twisted, because Christian therapist, that's my job. That is not even my ministry. That's my job. And sometimes even people get it twisted that, oh, this is just a little ministry that she's doing. Well, that is my full-time job. Part of my full-time job is being a counselor. So I can't get that twisted between me and my spouse and my home. And, so I'm glad that you talked about that, because it is so very important. I get people all the time who've gotten it twisted and think that because they're serving in a church, they're on the praise team, they're on this team, and they're the usher, and they're the this and the pastor and this and that it's okay to not be touching on their spouse, and touching, whether physically, emotionally, mentally, all of it needs to be touched. We need to touch more. And so my next question talks about the research, right? Because I'm a research queen. I like to look things up and see what
Yes.
different things say. And I don't just come on these lives just to be live and just talk about anything and everything. And so research says it takes 8 to 10 meaningful touches a day to maintain physical and emotional health. And so the question is kind of a two-part. Do you agree with that? And if you do, explain how you are trying to instill this in your marriage.
Okay, so I do agree with that for the average person who is just a human being, just a
Mhm.
human being in the world. For us to, because there's so much that happens with just being able to connect and everything, and just how it can really, really help your mental health and just community and whatnot. But for a married couple, I think it's probably 2 to 3 times that. It's greatly
Yes.
needed.
Yes.
Because he'll tell me, he's like, I've been patting you on the back and rubbing your back, and I've been giving you hugs and kisses on the cheek, and you don't even notice any of it. And I'm like, because I'm going like this, and I'm serving my family, not just serving my husband. So half of that, like my part of my like subconscious might be aware of that, but Melanie is not.
Yeah, talk to
And it
yourself.
all
Talk to
goes-
yourself.
yeah, and it goes in the bank somewhere, but yeah, so we definitely need a whole lot more, because I mean it's all about intimacy, and I feel like that's a taboo word too, which I'm not going to go on a tangent about right now.
Yeah.
It does not mean just sex. Intimacy is
Closeness, relationship.
yes, yeah.
Touch, 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 touch.
Yeah.
Touch, touch,
And
touch.
I mean, I really could not have said that any better, but like, it's just, you get what you put into things, right? If I'm going to do the bare minimum, the 8 to 10, I might have an average marriage. I might have somewhat of a operable relationship with my spouse. But if I want something that's dynamic and powerful and unbreakable, then I need to exceed that. And so it's like, I like the 8 to 10 because it means it needs to be a lot. But if we're doing it to fill a quota, it's like, oh yeah, here you go. All right.
Here, no.
Yeah. But it's like, I want more than that. I don't want an average marriage. I don't want an average health. I want exponential. I want radical health. I want to be so healthy in my marriage that there's such a metaphorical barrier around it that nothing's coming in. Like, there's just, we have this very strong accountability with each other. So I try to be as protective as I can. I know she does as well, but it's that physical touch is like, wait a minute. Oh, that's my wife,
Mhm.
and it's not out of obligation. It's not mandatory. So to answer your question, I believe it's more than essential, the 8 to 10. I think that's bare minimum. Like, if you just want to break the surface and barely survive, maybe 8 to 10 meaningful touches. But think about what Jesus did with the woman who won the issue of blood, who's the man who was had leprosy. The Bible says he touched them. Like, there's so much significance in that part alone. Oh yeah, he touched him. Okay, and he was healed. Like,
Yeah.
touch literally heals us. In those days, leprosy meant you had to stand outside of the city, yell, "Unclean, unclean, don't touch me."
Yeah.
And one touch from Jesus changed everything. So it's like, well, I want my life to continually be like that. So
All right. And there's a touch too, right? The kissing is a part of it. The hugging is a part of it. The hand holding is a part of it. Hand holding is a big deal for me.
Yes.
It just does something to me. I don't know about all the other women out there or men, but that just does something for me that tells me, oh, I'm here. I'm
Yes.
safe. I'm with you. So don't underestimate holding your spouse's hand. I know we probably have some people on here who are engaged, thinking about getting engaged, thinking about getting married, this is for you as well. Don't go into this and then, it's all cute when you're dating, and let's just go there for a minute. It's just so cute. It's just so amazing. I just want to hear the sound of your voice every day. I can't live without a phone call from you every day. And then you get married, and about a month into it, something happens. It doesn't, maybe not even a month, and you go, "Oh, I don't
Who
I
is
don't
this
even want to
person?
hear the person's voice, let
Mhm.
alone it doing anything inside of me." So we have to be very careful going into this institution called marriage. I've been through some stuff. Melanie and Tristan have been through some stuff prior to us being married right now, that we wish we could just wipe it all clean and say this was our original. And I tried to get an original on here, who's been married 40 years or whatever, just so they could give us some insight as well for 40 years of this or 30 years of this, and let us know, how is it going now that you're there, now that you're in that 40-year bracket. Are you still touching? Has touching even entered in? Because sometimes if it hasn't, it's just become routine where you don't, and it's okay, and it can't be okay.
Right.
That's what I wanted to say, and all of that. It can't be okay. It can't be okay that you're just not touching your spouse because you're not comfortable doing that. Get comfortable.
Mhm.
Get comfortable with it. If you were in a marriage before that, and your spouse probably passed away or something, that's a whole other thing as well. And you were able to not be touchy-feely with that person because that's what you guys grew accustomed to.
Yeah.
And now you've healed from it, and now you're in a marriage again, and you're treating it the same way because you feel like that's just the way it's supposed to go. And what happens here is this other person is saying, no, I want you to touch me. So get with the program, everybody. Get with the program. We're not just coming to you from Google. We're literally coming to you from God.
Amen.
We're literally coming to you from scripture. Even in the Bible, it talks about, there's a time to get away and go and be with God and read and pray and do all of that. But don't stay too long away from your spouse and start utilizing God as an excuse for not touching your spouse.
Yeah.
That can't happen. That can't happen. We are here today talking with Tristan and Melanie Helm, and we all do the same kind of work, mental health stuff. We get to see people every day. So this, I always tell my students that I teach counseling, I say, people come into your office and they literally vomit all over you, and you get to catch it. But you don't just catch it. You have to know what to do with the information so that you can help people. We are here today because we want to help.
Absolutely.
We want to help somebody out there. And so was that number 6? I'm losing track of my questions.
Oh no, I'm just having a good time.
We're excited and having a good time over here. We don't want to extend it out into your day, but there is one other, I believe, question that I had, and it was actually a statement where I said, if there was one thing you could say to a couple out there struggling in this area of touch, what would it be?
I would say that remember that you're in a union, both of you. And you're allowed to put pride away. Pride is at the root of most sin. You don't need all that junk in your marriage. Put pride away and don't give each other permission and space to make mistakes, to look foolish while you figure this out, because intimacy it needs grace. It's beautiful whenever we touch, whenever we come together, but while we're trying to figure all of that out, it can look messy. It can, like, for the first, golly, I don't even know how long, because of all the junk that I was coming out of. Every time he would give me a hug, I would burst into tears, because as a woman coming out of trauma, I didn't know what safe touch was, right? And so we ended up laughing about it, because it just became, a thing, because safe touch, right? It just, wrap your arms around each other. Let it be messy. Let it be, just whatever it is. Slow down and, just embrace. Grab each other's hands whenever you're, out and about. Just give each other permission to just be raw and just be real with each other. Because that's what marriage is you're seeing the backstage of this person's entire life, and you're part of that.
Mhm.
And we worry about, well, I need God to, like, it takes away from my prayer time, or it takes away from this or that. But something that he actually taught me, because that was me, he taught me that you're in a union. You've become one flesh, and you're in a covenant with your Almighty God. And so whenever you serve your spouse and you take care of your spouse and you love your spouse, that is worship. That is worshiping God in every capacity, whether it be holding hands or whether it be in intercourse, no matter what you're doing, you are worshiping God when you are with your spouse, when you're sitting down being raw and real and all of the things. It's not supposed to be glamorous and all of that. It's supposed to be real. You are trudging through the darkness of this world together. It's not going to be glamorous. So that's my rant.
Yes.
So,
Tristan?
oh my goodness, I love this question. I'm just trying to narrow it down to just one. So I believe a very key factor in a relationship is two main principles: communication and understanding. Like, I need to be able to communicate what's going on with me, but I also need to understand what's going on with them. Because it's not about me, and it's definitely not just about them. It's about us. There needs to be a balance between both people. Like, one need needs to be met just as much as the other needs to be met. There needs to be a balance and not one priority over the next. And so that's why I tie that to the communication and understanding, because the more I embrace that idea that I could be wrong about this, maybe it's their way, that's better, then I open up my mind to a new ideology that could help me in the long run. And Melody's taught me many things just about, oh my goodness, about raising children, about organization. So, like, I do not believe I would be who I am, where I am today, without her. I told her that this morning, that my capacity in my mind has enlarged because I've come to understand her so much. And from what she's telling me, it sounds like it's kind of requited, or not unrequited, it's pretty reciprocated, that because she communicates with me and because she understands me, hers is enlarged as well. So all that to say, I would say focus on those things, because there's a reason why you're together in the first place. And most people forget that. They forget what made me fall in love with this person. Why did I ask them, or why did I accept the proposal? And they just get into this routine of life, and they, wait a minute, whoa. There's so much that needs to happen for this to continue. And if you remember why you were together in the first place, then that would open that door for communication and understanding. Because what happens when you first get together? I just want to hear them talk. But then as you can't even stand the sound of their breath, much less smell it, right? Because you forget like that hunger and that desire for each other and that knowledge of, so you went through this. That's so powerful. I'm so sorry you dealt with that. And hey, this is something I went through as well. Oh, you understand. Oh, it's nice to get that out of off my chest. So again, just that holding that closeness together, I would say always keeping that in the forefront of your mind with communication and understanding, I think are the guidelines to a more than successful marriage.
There you have it, everyone. And there you have it, on this Saturday afternoon where we're talking about cuddling up or touching in marriage. It's a gloomy day over here in Florida. And what a perfect day for cuddling and all of that. But you don't need a day to do that. This should be an ongoing thing. And so, we are here with Melanie and Tristan, and their business is called Helm Mastery. And how do people reach out to you guys if they need help from you? I mean, I'm streaming my counseling practice across there. How would they reach you?
The best way is helpmastery.com. Exactly
Yeah.
how it's spelled on the screen. So type what's on the screen, and that will give us access to, will give anybody access to anything we do.
That's right. And so you heard it from them. Helmmastery.com is where you would go to get help from them. We are collaborating today about this amazing topic they called it cuddle, we call it touch. Whatever you want to call it, get back to the basics, and if I could end on it's hard for me to end this conversation, but
Yes.
and we're really not ending it because I'm going to be starting a show, and I'm hoping that Melanie and Tristan will be part of it. Sometimes my show will start on January 16th. It's called The Marriage Couch. And the Marriage Couch is, we're not just going to be talking about marriage. We're going to be talking to singles who are waiting for marriage, engaged people, everybody. We're pulling everybody into the loop because we understand that, back in Freud's day, there was an actual couch where people came and just laid around, but we're utilizing the couch because of the comfort of it. And we want this conversation to keep going over and over and over again in 2024. There are so many other days that have been slated out there as national days, and I'm picking up on as many of them as I can, just to let you know that the importance of all of this. And, when I was putting this all together, my mind went back to the movie War Room. And, that couple,
Yes, we love that movie.
and they went through some horrific things. The husband was pretty intense. And, she created a room to pray and called it was the War Room. But my most celebrated moment in that movie was at the end of the movie. Throughout the movie, her daughter, her husband, everybody, even her, kept talking about her stinky feet. And at the end of the movie, her husband came with a bucket of water and a mask on his face to wash her stinky feet.
Yes.
So there is no excuse for not touching your spouse.
Amen.
Go this evening, this afternoon, whatever time frame you're in, grab your spouse's feet. I challenge you, and wash those feet and watch what happens in your marriage as you decide to take it to another level and literally start touching in ways that you have never, ever even thought about touching before. So thank you to the Helms for joining us today. Thank you to
for
all of
having us.
you that are either talking to us live or in the replay. If we come across a question that we cannot answer, we will answer it on the couch starting on January 16th. So we just want to thank you all for joining us. We get to do this every single day in our profession, but we're glad that you joined us here live just to hear what we do and what we're about. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr. Sharon.
you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.